Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving SAT grammar questions out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problems that we are about to solve are the ones that you will find on page number 776. Please turn to it, page 776, and today is our lesson number 33. These are a series of 18 questions. Beginning with number 12 and ending with 29. Because there are 18 of them, the scale of difficulty goes from 12 through 29. And because there are 18 of them, which means first 6 are easy, the middle 6 are medium, the last 6 are hard. Or if one wishes to speak loosely, the ones that you find on page number 776, those are all easy. As you turn the page, on the next page, page 777, in the first column you will find all the medium questions, and in the second column, on the left-hand column, on the right-hand column, we'll find the hard ones. So let's get going. So these are all easy questions on page number 776, which is what we're going to do, which are the ones that we're going to do right now. Let's see what we can do here. Number 12. Much of the success of Frank and George as a director of movies, and then it goes on and on. You see a problem here. We have two people here. The sentence starts out by telling us the success of Frank and George. These are two people. Two people will have a very difficult time being a director. They will have a very difficult time being a director. We need plural. The article has to go, A has to go out, and it should say directors. Much of the success of Frank and George as directors of movies, not a director, because there are two of them. That's all. Number 2. So that had to do with singular plural, number 4 in the list here. We had plural, the subject of the sentence was plural because there were two people, and it goes on to refer to them in singular by calling them a director. That won't do. Number 13. It was fortunate that Miss Stewart attended the committee, for only she was able to examine the problem calmly. Now, the first part here, for only she was, this has to do with idioms. It's just a way of speaking. Here, another word that we could have used here is because. He was hired. I hired Michael among all the other people who showed up, for he was the only one who came across to me as an honest person, which is another way of saying because he, I thought, was the honest person. For here means because. But that's not the problem, obviously. For she was the only one able to examine the problem calm. Do you see a problem here? We do see a problem here. The verb here is examine. This is the verb. And this is telling us how she's examining the problem. The verb here is examine, and it goes on to say how she's examining it. Something that describes us how something else is done, an action is done, is called an adverb. We need an adverb here. For she was the only one able to examine the problem calmly. For she was the only one able to examine the problem calmly. Of course, they go on to say thoroughly also, don't they? If you read carefully, it goes on to say calmly and thoroughly. You see, they did not say calm and thorough. Calmly and thoroughly. We did a problem very similar to this one just yesterday. If I can find it very quickly. If it takes too long, I won't do it. Where we had two things. Oh, there you go. If you turn the page, on page number 775, on page 775 on the previous page, the very first problem, Thus, we had this discussion just yesterday, which is why I remember it. It says great literature endures by speaking directly and freshly. Not direct and fresh. One cannot speak direct and fresh. One has to speak directly and freshly. Even if it sounds weird to you, that is how it goes. We need an adverb because we're describing how someone is speaking. Anything that describes a verb is an adverb. One speaks directly. One speaks clearly. One speaks freshly. Not fresh, not direct, not clear. One examines the problem calmly. Number 14. My colleague and myself received an award. My colleague and myself received an award for the paper on the accuracy with which a polygraph measures physiological processes. So let's see what we can do with here. Ask yourself, what would happen if his colleague was not involved if your colleague was not involved in this scenario, if it was just you, it would read like this. And now it says myself received an award. That's the way to catch a mistake. Ask yourself, what if the other person wasn't there? And then you will go around saying myself. Then you would go around saying myself received an award. You wouldn't say myself received an award. It will be I received an award. I received an award for something, something, something. The fact that you have your colleague with you, it doesn't change the fact that this should be I. My colleague, and I. Or if you don't want to put colleague, because you don't know how to spell it, then just say Michael. Mike and, you would not say Mike and myself. Mike and I received an award. Not Mike and myself. Next one. That's it, we're done with that one. Number 15 in the next column. A lack of job opportunity for recent graduate restricts their independence. A lack of job opportunities for recent graduates restricts their independence. Do you find anything wrong with that this sentence so far? The answer is no. Answer is no. Often, lack of job opportunity for recent graduates restricts their independence. So we do not know what the answer is. We do not know what the answer is, but answer is not A or B. The answer would have to be either C, D, or E. E, if there is nothing else is wrong with the sentence, the answer would turn out to be E, or maybe it is C or D, but it's not A or B because it starts out just fine. Lack of job opportunities for recent graduate restricts their independence, often forcing them which is also fine. So the answer is not C. To remain, often forcing them to remain at home, or else they move back home. There is your problem. Often forcing them to remain home or move back home. If they had already moved out of the parents' home, it forces them to move back home. We don't need the word else there. That's the problem here. We cross out those two words and that's it, we're done. And that was the mistake. Now the answer is D. So the sentence reads, a lack of job opportunities for recent graduates restricts their independence, often forcing them to remain at home or move back home if they had already moved out. Number 16. Number 16. Marathon racing challenging test of endurance, has become increasingly popular. Now, had that been the end of the sentence, if this is where the sentence ended, how would you fix this sentence? The answer is, we wouldn't. It doesn't need any fixing, it's fine. Marathon racing, a challenging test of endurance, has become increasingly popular. So we do not know what the answer is, but it's not A or B. Has become and popular. The answer is not A or B. Let's go on then. Increasingly popular among amateur athletes in the last few years. Let's see what the sentence says here. What was the C part? This is the D part. Last few years. That was the D. Where is the C? Among. There you go. Marathon racing, a challenging test of endurance, has become increasingly popular among the amateur athletes in the last few years. I was about to say in recent years. That would have been fine too. How would we fix this sentence? The answer is, we wouldn't. There is nothing wrong with this sentence. Everything is fine. Everything is, as we say, hunky-dory. The answer is E. I know you're too young to actually know hunky-dory. It just shows that I've been around for a while. People don't speak like that anymore. Well, in the Midwest they do. I did my undergraduate in the Midwest, and that's where they speak like that. Things are hunky-dory over there. Number 17. Crossing and recrossing the stream. Crossing and recrossing the stream. Stepping on or over slippery rocks and following a trail that grew steeper and steeper. The hikers soon realize how challenging their day would be. Let's first underline all the parts that are there. Crossing and recrossing the stream. There's nothing wrong with that part. Crossing and recrossing the stream. Stepping on and over the slippery rock, and following a trail that grew steeper and steeper. If you leave out the rest of the stuff here, so far we haven't found anything wrong with the sentence. One more time. Crossing and recrossing the stream, stepping on or over the slippery rocks, and following a trail that grew steeper and steeper. There's nothing wrong so far. The hikers soon realized, where's the D part? I left out D. Hikers soon realized how challenging their day would be. Another beautifully written sentence. There is nothing wrong with it. It doesn't need any changing. It doesn't need any correction. The answer is E. This is highly unusual. you do not usually find two sentences, sentence correction, one after the other with the answer choices E. It happens very rarely. But this is one of your this is one of those days. This is your lucky day. It happens once in a blue moon, and this happens to be a blue moon. Today happens to be a blue moon, is what I'm trying to say. The answer is E. The answer is E. Crossing and recrossing the stream, stepping on or over the slippery rocks, and following a trail that grew steeper and steeper. The hiker soon realized how challenging their day would be. Number 18. Though best known as a jazz vocalist, he also enjoyed gospel music. He also enjoyed gospel music. I left out the first part because there is nothing wrong with it. Though best known as a jazz vocalist, there is nothing wrong with it. Answer is not A. He enjoyed gospel music. He enjoyed gospel music. That's also fine. And if you want to put down, if you want to be thorough, though best known as a jazz vocalist is what I meant to say. So best known as a jazz vocalist, he also enjoyed gospel music, whereby he told his manager that he wanted to make a recording of his favorite gospel songs. Let's see what we can do here. Let's see what the underlying parts are. Though best known, that's your A. Though best known as a jazz vocalist, he also enjoyed. That's B. He also enjoyed gospel music, whereby he told his manager that he wanted to make a recording. He wanted to make a recording of his favorite gospel music rather. What is wrong with this sentence has to do with what you see in the very end of this, very end of our list here, which is idioms. And as I've told you many a time, if you watched the previous videos in the first 32 days, the reason why it's at the very end is because these are very difficult to spot. Idioms are very difficult to master because it's just they do not follow any pattern, they do not follow any rules of grammar. You either know the idioms or you don't know the idiom. The idiom that we need here, the proper idioms that we need here is not whereby. This is how the sentence should read. This is how the sentence should have read. Though best known as a jazz vocalist, he also enjoyed gospel music. So much so that this is the idiom we need. So much so that he told his manager that he wanted to make a recording of his favorite gospel music. Do you understand? I went to London last week. I thoroughly enjoyed my stay there. So much so that I have decided to move there permanently. We wouldn't say whereby. So much so that I have decided to move there permanently. That's how much I enjoyed it. Do you understand? So much so. That's how. That's what the problem is. The answer is C. Cross out the word whereby, and we'll put so much so that he asked his manager to make a recording of his favorite gospel music. And that was number 18. Let's do the very last one, number 19. for some strange and inexplicable reason, I'm going at a very leisurely pace. As I said, it's inexplicable, so don't ask me why, because I can't explain it. In the foothill of the large mountain range, in the foothills of the large mountain range is the sources of a river. You see a problem? Sources. The rest of the stuff that they go on, the rest of the stuff that you see there in Sunday that goes on and on, that's the boring bits. We're not interested in the boring bits, just concentrate on the juicy bits. The sources of the river whose course was not fully mapped until this century. We're not interested in that part because what is wrong with the sentence is already there. You see the problem here? We're talking about sources, plural, more than one source. At the foothill of the mountain range, not is, we have sources. Sources. At the foothill of the mountain range are the sources of river. At the foothill of the mountain range are the sources of river. Because we're talking about sources, we need a plural word, not is, are. That's it. And that will be answer choice A. And in the foothill of the large mountain range are the sources of the river whose course was not fully mapped until this century. And that was it. Tomorrow we'll continue our journey to the next page where we'll do the medium and the hard questions in this series of 18 questions. Alright? I'll see you then. Bye now.